use these monies, these funds, to train Liberians in the oil and petroleum sector. So that at the point where it's time to start drilling commercial quantities, our people will be ready to be hired. All right? So it's also part of being responsible. And then secondly, it's also about sustainability. You don't want to have a sector which is dominated by foreigners. And then of course we are at a disadvantage. So we want to make sure our people have the capacity. So in that mandate, it's very clearly spelled out that we have to be able to use these resources to develop Liberia capacity in that sector. All right. So here is our basin. The orange side is those are the sites that have been leased already. All right. But when you go along that line, going down, that's your deep. It's offshore, whereas the part contiguous to it, next to it, is the ultra deep side.
Very, very deep.
18 to 28 to 30. Block 18 to 30 on the outside. You go down from left to right. On this side, those are your ultra deep blocks that we've kind of delimited. And then closer to the shore are your offshore blocks. All right. So far, we've leased from block 17 to block 8, right? Some of them, not all of them, are in operation. Nobody's drilling commercial quantities. All these are for exploration purposes. People have put money down to explore these blocks further based on the data they bought to find out whether we have commercial quantities of oil, because it's the commercial quantity that will tell them whether it's profitable to drill or not. So what they're doing is some of them are drilling one or two. Every agreement that we sign with them, they have to drill. You can't just get up, buy the land, buy the block and not drill and come back and say, change my mind. You've got to drill to tell us that yes, you found something or you have not found enough. All right. So those are some of the specifications that we have in the production sharing agreements. All right. All right, so basically our goal as an organization is to lease these blocks. So these companies that are best suited to explore would explore and exploit in the interest of Liberia. All right. We have a process, a very rigid process for evaluating the bids. And it's a number of things that you look at, not just in terms of your physical cash flow, how much money you have in your coffers to be able to explore. It's very capital intensive. But we also want to make sure that you have the expertise and the experience to explore. So it's mainly those two things you look at. So there have been lessons learned before, and what we're doing is that we are making it, we're tightening the process further so that we don't have the same challenges that we had before repeating themselves. So that's basically. All right. So again, as we're talking about the sector in general, we're talking about oil refining. We are not refining oil. However, we have there are a number of phases in the sector when it comes to exploration. In the sector itself in general, you really have the first part, which is the exploratory part. We are exploring. We want to find out whether we got the oil. That's one phase. The other phase, that's what we call upstream, meaning the companies go with their ships, they go and they do exploration work. They are not drilling for commercial quantities. And then you have the phase 2, which is your, what you call the production phase, all right? So that production phase is when you find the oil and now you're producing commercial quantities. And then you have all the downstream things that come along with it. Maybe you have refinery companies, refining establishments, refining the oil. You're producing more than just gas. You're producing liquid petroleum gas. You're doing, additives for engines, a whole lot of stuff that you're using with that kind of resource that you found. So that's more downstream. There's a lot of services that are attached to that as well. All right, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the seismic data, what happens. We have something called the bid rounds. where it's more like the time that we decide that different companies who've looked at the data that this company in Houston has provided for us at a cost. They look at it and they say, we see something here that's very interesting. We want to be able to pay for the data and then explore it some more. Okay, so people ask the question, where is NOCAL getting its money from right now? It is from this. All right, they pay millions of dollars just to look at the data that we have. And it's these millions that they use, that we use to manage NOCAL and a few other things in terms of building our corporate social responsibility platform and basically doing capacity building for the country. So that's where it's coming from, the bid rounds. They sign these petroleum sharing contracts. In those contracts, we tell them specifically what we want, all right, for the country. Some of the money has to come back to us. Some of the money goes to foreign affairs, for finance, revenues. Some of the money we insist that even apart from what they give us as corporate social responsibility funds, they themselves in their companies have to have a budget line for corporate, social responsibility activities. So they also manage their own CSR programs as well. Okay. So now, as I said before, if they don't drill, they have to return, some of the monies back to us. Again, when you go online, you will see examples, real examples of petroleum sharing contracts that we've signed with ExxonMobil, Block 13, and with Chevron, which is Block 12. They're live PSCs that are online that you can look at on our website. All right, so I just wanted to say here, this exploration phase 3 is that there's so many other services that come along. We may say that Liberians may not have the capacity or the technical know-how to explore right now, but there's also the opportunity for local content development. So now's the time for us to work with Liberian businesses to prepare them to provide services to these companies once they start drilling in commercial quantities. So those are things that will be useful for journalists to start talking about. Let Liberians know that they have a piece of the pie, and they are active. We envisage that they will participate in these activities to their own benefit and to the benefit of the country. So it's not like a hands-off scenario. All right. A little bit of information here about the companies that finally win the bids. You have to look at the history of bidding, of the bidding company, who owns the company, who are the subsidiaries. We look at their international experience. You can't, not any kind of small company would just show up and say, oh, I can drill oil, and then we give them the bid. No. We want to know their past performance. Have you complied? Because we know oil is a very delicate issue. We're talking about spills, we're talking about quality control, all those things, environmental concerns. All those things have to be there to give us confidence to award them the bid. All right. We look at financial capability, including evidence of funds sources, where you're getting your money from, your statement of your net worth, profitability records. We don't want companies that are broke to come in and say we have money, and the next thing you know, they just kind of disappear, and then we're left with nothing. So those are all some of the due diligence that we put into the picture. They also have to give us a work program. Once they win the bid, they have to show us how they're going to go about doing the exploration, how many months, and we have to go ourselves to monitor.
Yeah.
So we have NOCAL staff in our technical department who are drill engineers, who are environmental specialists. They all go on the rig to see what's going on now. That's something that we are strongly putting a lot of resources into to build their capacity to be better at what they're doing right now. A number of NOCAL staff are going on secondments to a number of these oil companies, to Chevron, to ExxonMobil, to learn from them how they get their things done, so that there's knowledge transfer and experience transfer along the way. Okay. Spoke about those things already. We're talking about at the bottom part, you'll see proposals for operational issues, including their anticipated staff levels, involvement of expatriate and local staff. We want to make sure that there's a healthy mix between people they're bringing in and the use of our own people here. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. What is the community development proposal, what kind of infrastructure improvements are you going to make in the area that you're going to drill the oil? Are you going to put up schools? Are you going to put up hospitals? All those things are important. What are environmental safeguards that you're going to put in place to make sure that we don't have spills? It's so important, because once we lose our marine life, we lose everything. So all those things have to be taken into consideration. I want to talk a little bit here about just how what happens, politics can affect the price of oil. All right. So how well we manage the country, and how well the world sees us as being up to speed with how we manage our resources and our capabilities, affect oil prices. The same applies to supply and demand, because they have a group of oil producing countries. It's like a cartel, and they kind of set the price of oil. So we sit down here and we say, oh, these people have found maybe 840,000 barrels of oil, and we're using today's figures, okay? But when they finally start maybe drilling the oil, the price will be different. So all those things, there are fluctuations. So we cannot be very definitive today based on exploration numbers, how much we're going to make when we start refining in commercial quantities. But it just gives us some kind of guide. Now this OPEC group manage supply and demand. They release, if there's too much oil and the price is going down, they stop supplying quantity, so that, because they don't want it to be like a glut. You have a resource, if it's too readily available, then the price goes down. It's just like a man or a woman's value. If you're all around the place, then of course people don't take you to be serious, and then your value goes down. So it's the same way that they're managing the resources. So when there are times when they feel that the oil is too much, then they hold on to it, so that they create artificial shortage, and that's the reality of it, so that the price can go up. All right. So we have our motto is actually the promise of a better tomorrow, because we feel that if we are able to manage our oil resources better, Liberia will be better. It will be a better country for everyone, our children, our children's children. So we focus a lot on corporate social responsibility activities. The resources that we have, we're helping. We're putting up. Recently, we set up how many signs? 7. We opened 7.
There's one that's open, and
Right.
they're working on.
The CH Dewey has a science lab now, and then there are about 7 others that they're going to open up in other schools. We're basically working. We have scholarship program that's running, trying to get Liberians to get master's degrees in the sector. We're also looking at working with communities, improving water and sanitation, or even improving facilities, health facilities, sporting facilities, because we really want the youth to be engaged, productively engaged. And we think that sport is one way through which you can engage the youth constructively. So we have put resources into sports development, whether it's the infrastructure, sports facilities in the country. We're doing that as well. We're working with NGOs to provide them with funding for some of their projects that impact larger communities. Those are some of the things that we're doing. Here are some of the pictures. This year, the company allocated $8.29 million on manpower training and development. That's not just for North House, for the community. It's for the whole country. And what you see are pictures of, the first picture on the top left, those are vocational technical training graduates from the Salvation Army. On the right, we have pictures of the science lab we opened at CH Dewey. To the bottom left, you have funding we gave to Fatu over there for an orphanage in Martinsville. To the right, we have basically Ruraville graduates, vocational technical training. We have projects in the Leeward counties as well. In Lofa, we have housing community projects that we're revamping to finish. There are a number of other activities that are going to be set in the rural areas. It's not just going to be coastal Liberia. It's going to be all over. Because the oil is for the whole country, it's not just for So Public Affairs Department, our role is basically to educate the public about what NOCAL is doing. We want to engage the public as well. It's not just telling you, oh, this is what it is. We want to hear from you, find ways in which we can manage each other's expectations of the sector. And we want to brand NOCAL. NOCAL has to be something that you value and treasure. I say NOCAL is my parfum, and I expect everyone to see NOCAL as their parfum. So anything that's having your parfum, your eyes got to be on it. Okay, and in cyberspace, we have an online presence, not just on our website, but we have an online presence on Facebook and Twitter. And I think I'll type up well, I can give it to you now, you can write it down, but our website is www.nocal.com.lr. That's our website. If you go on Facebook and you type in the search, National Oil Company of Liberia, it will show up. And then we have a lot of pictures, activities going on there.
We can see that miracle without this.
Okay, in the absence of any further questions, we want to bring this very insightful discussion on the National Oil Company to a close. So can we give a round of applause?
David,